The most mysterious monuments in human history, carved from basalt and weighing up to 50 tons, the Olmec have stood in silence for over 2,000 years. No one truly knows how they were made, why they were placed, where they were, or what exact purpose they served. Now, for the first time, artificial intelligence has scanned several of these ancient heads with unmatched precision. What they found was completely unexpected. Patterns that do not fit any known tool, hidden structures inside the stone, and details that raise more questions than answers. The scans just deepened the mystery. What they just found suggests that something about their origin should have never existed. The Olmec mystery. Olmec civilization appeared in what is now southern Mexico more than 3,000 years ago. They occupied the Gulf Coast region, especially areas that are now part of Veracruz and Tabasco. The first evidence of their complex society dates to around 1,500 years before the Common Era. This civilization built ceremonial centers, used writing symbols, and left behind monumental art. Among their most iconic remains are the colossal heads. These are stone sculptures carved from basalt, a volcanic rock that is heavy and extremely hard. Each one was carved from a single boulder of volcanic basalt rock. 17 heads have been found so far. Each one shows the face of a human male with distinct features. Their expressions are calm, their eyes narrow, and most of them wear what appear to be helmets. These heads are not small. The tallest stands over 3 meters high. The heaviest weighs more than 50 tons. Each one was carved from a single block of basalt. These blocks were quarried from a mountain range called the Sierra de los Tuxtlas. That region is more than 90 kilometers from the Olmec ceremonial centers. There were no beasts of burden in Mesoamerica at that time. The Olmec had no wheels, no carts, and no metal tools. Despite this, they moved those stones. Then they carved them with only stone tools. Modern archaeology cannot fully explain how this was done. Several theories have been offered. One suggests they moved the stones with rafts along rivers. Another proposes that hundreds of people dragged the blocks using ropes and logs. But there is no physical evidence of these systems. The carving is another unexplained feature. Basalt is one of the hardest natural materials. Chiseling it without metal would have required thousands of hours. Yet the heads are not crude. The facial features are clean. The symmetry in the eyes, ears, and mouths is consistent. The facial features suggest individual identities. Many researchers believe they represent rulers. Others think they may have served as guardians or religious icons. There is no clear answer. The heads are not the only large-scale work of the Olmec. They also built massive earthen platforms, thrones carved from stone, and altars decorated with mythological scenes. They had a system of symbols that may be early writing. They made figurines from jade and ceramics with refined artistic quality. Yet, for all their achievements, no one knows what happened to them.
The civilization declined around 400 years before the Common Era. Later groups, including the Maya and the Aztec, built on Olmec ideas, but the people themselves disappeared. Much of what is known about the Olmec comes from what they left behind and what is buried beneath the ground. These were the vestiges of an entire civilization, a civilization that today takes its place among the very oldest found anywhere in the world. The heads remain the most famous and most puzzling evidence of their skill. The scale, the detail, and the effort required to make them do not match what is expected of a pre-metal, pre-wheel society. A few of the heads show signs of reuse. Carving marks suggest that some may have started as other structures, like thrones or altars, before being reshaped into heads. This points to an even older phase of monument building that has not been identified. One head, found at a site called La Covata, appears unfinished. Its face is rough, the carving incomplete. What they uncovered was unlike anything they'd seen before. A single colossal stone head buried deep in the ground. This has raised more questions than answers. Why was the work stopped? Until recently, archaeologists relied on surface studies, basic excavation, and visual inspection to analyze the heads. But these methods could only go so far. The sheer size and weight of the sculptures limited how deeply they could be examined. That changed when researchers decided to use artificial intelligence tools to perform high-resolution scans of several heads. These scans used structured light, laser mapping, and density modeling to capture what the human eye and traditional tools could not. The technology allowed for internal imaging, surface analysis at a microscopic level, and comparison across multiple heads. At first, the scans seemed to confirm what was already known, until the software began flagging inconsistencies. There were marks on the inner layers of the stone that did not match stone tool abrasions. There were shifts in internal density that did not align with natural basalt formations. And in at least one case, the scan showed what appeared to be geometric features beneath the surface that had never been detected before. These were not part of the known carving. You can see these gorgeous details, like the line that's drawn around the lips, just giving that extra sense of dimension and definition. They were too symmetrical, too and too deep. They were invisible without the scan. The results were unexpected, and they raised questions that the current archaeological model could not answer. It is not clear yet what these findings mean. The anomalies are being reviewed, but what is already clear is that the heads are not simple monuments. What AI was supposed to find. The decision to scan the Olmec heads came from a need to document them with greater accuracy in Veracruz State in Mexico. We're just on the trail of the Olmec. Behind me, you can see one of the great Olmec heads. These sculptures are vulnerable to erosion, vandalism, and the slow damage of weathering. Traditional methods, such as photographs and plaster casts, could not capture the full geometry or surface condition. So researchers turned to a combination of structured light scanning, laser surface mapping, and artificial intelligence-based modeling. The goal was simple: create the most accurate digital record possible of several heads. This would allow for conservation planning, virtual restoration, and deeper study of tool marks, weathering, and structural changes over time. Nothing in the original plan involved searching for anomalies. The AI tools were there to enhance precision, not rewrite history. Teams used portable structured light scanners, capable of mapping surface features at sub-millimeter resolution. Once the data was collected, it was passed through a trained AI pipeline.
The algorithm had been taught to distinguish between known carving marks, natural damage, erosion patterns, and environmental effects. The idea was to automatically flag any areas where the surface deviated from what was expected. When the AI system performed deeper analysis, it began generating alerts. One model flagged a repeated line pattern on the side of a head. These were extremely fine parallel striations, visible only in the three-dimensional mesh. They ran across the side of the jaw underneath a decorative element. The markings did not match any known tool marks from Mesoamerica. They resembled abrasion scoring seen in modern machining, although that comparison remains uncertain. No mech tools based on archaeological evidence could have produced such fine control. The marks were too shallow, too consistent, and too protected from natural wear to be accidental. Another scan revealed a shallow recess near the base of one of the heads. It was circular and cleanly defined. This had never been documented before because it sat underneath the sculpture's buried portion. When the model reconstructed the full object, the shape became clear. It appeared to be a socket-like depression, less than 5 centimeters deep. The reason for its presence is unknown. No similar features have been reported in other Mesoamerican sculptures. In a third scan, the AI system detected internal inconsistencies in material density. The head had a small but distinct region inside the crown where the stone's density dropped below normal basalt levels. The volume was irregular but enclosed. This could be a natural void. Basalt can contain bubbles or gaps formed during volcanic cooling, but the shape was more linear than spherical. It resembled a channel or shaft, though the scan was not powerful enough to penetrate fully. To check for scanning errors, the team repeated the analysis using a different model and software. The same anomalies appeared. They were features of the physical object missed for decades. As a control, the team scanned a head known to be unfinished, the one at Lakabata. It showed expected tool marks, rough edges, and no anomalies. This confirmed that the AI was not overfitting or hallucinating patterns. The system worked as designed. The team also used photogrammetry to check for subtle surface reliefs. By comparing lighting angles and microshadows, they found what might be shallow carved lines behind the ears of one sculpture. These lines formed a grid-like pattern, mostly invisible to the naked eye. The AI flagged this as statistically unlikely to be random. Another unexpected pattern came from the symmetry analysis. The AI system measured each half of a face to check alignment. Most showed natural variation, but one head had near-perfect bilateral symmetry in its mouth and eyes, more precise than typical hand carving. This did not prove machine use, but it suggested a level of planning or measurement not previously documented in mech works. What makes this significant is not one isolated detail, it is the pattern, multiple anomalies across separate heads. This suggests that the mech heads are more than carved portraits. They may contain architectural design, hidden structures, or reused stone. The scans also open new possibilities for how the mech worked. If some heads were modified over time, that means their history is layered. Some features could date to different periods. This would reshape how we date and classify them. The next phase will require deeper scans, chemical analysis, and comparative studies. The heads are not just artifacts, they are data structures, and only now are we learning how to read them.
Impossible marks, varied geometry. The more researchers scanned the mech heads, the less consistent the data became. San Lorenzo also had a very enormous artificial plateau. In this image, you see that this very straight line. It was no longer just a question of external features. Something deeper was beginning to emerge. Elements that could not be explained by standard carving, typical weathering, or known construction methods from that period. One of the clearest examples came from a head located at the San Lorenzo site. When the AI system enhanced the scan's internal imaging using adjusted light reflection algorithms, it detected a pattern that should not have been possible. Along the inner curve of the neck, a series of symmetrical indentations ran vertically. Each one was evenly spaced, each had the same arc shape. The AI model could not match the pattern with any natural fracture sequence or erosion process. The hypothesis formed was simple. The indentations could represent either an inner reinforcement system or a pre-cut structure that guided the carving, but no known Mesoamerican technique matches this kind of internal shaping, especially not in basalt. This type of stone does not lend itself to internal design work. It is too hard. It cracks under stress. Creating features inside the rock without compromising the outer surface would require an understanding of stress distribution well beyond any known tools from that era. Another anomaly came from the material composition. A separate scan using portable X-ray fluorescence revealed irregularities in mineral content on the outer layer of one head. Specifically, traces of hematite and magnetite were found in a polished strip that extended across the forehead. These minerals are not unusual in Mesoamerican pigments, but in this case, they were not surface applied. The elemental signature was embedded in the top layer of the basalt, suggesting they were introduced during carving, not painted afterward. The distribution of these minerals formed a band that was slightly raised. It did not appear to be decorative. It did not follow the contours of the headdress or any visible ornamentation. It cut across features. Under AI-enhanced scans, the surface had fewer microfractures than adjacent areas. The system flagged this section as anomalous. What makes this detail important is its location and consistency. Other heads showed no such feature, only this one, and only in that band. The theory that it was natural variation in the stone was ruled out after control samples from the same quarry showed no similar patterns. In the third case, a scan from the back of one head revealed what appeared to be a faint recessed spiral. The depth of the groove was less than half a millimeter, but it ran continuously for almost 1 meter in length. The spiral had 5 full turns, expanding outward from a central point near the crown. No Olmec artwork previously studied includes such a pattern. Spirals are present in other Mesoamerican art, often symbolizing water, wind, or time, but their appearance on a head and on a non-visible section is unprecedented. Some researchers believe that at least one of the heads was
point
carved
near
in
the crown.
multiple stages,
No
using
Olmec
different
artwork
types of
previously
tools.
studied
This
includes
observation
such a pattern.
supports the theory that the
Spirals
heads
are
might have
present
been
in other
recycled.
Mesoamerican
Some
art,
could have started
often
as thrones or
symbolizing water,
monuments,
wind,
then
or
reworked
time.
into heads.
But their appearance
This would
on a
explain
head
certain
and on a
inconsistencies in
non-visible
geometry
section
and tool
is
finish,
unprecedented.
but it does not explain
Some
why the inner
researchers
marks
believe that
or
at
hidden
least one of the
spirals
heads was
exist.
carved in
If they were
multiple
left over
stages,
from previous
using
forms,
different types
they should
of
show
tools.
signs of
This
partial
observation
erasure.
supports the
Instead,
theory
they
that the
appear
heads might have been
intentional,
recycled.
preserved.
Some could
The
have
basalt
started as
used in this
thrones or
sculpture had
monuments,
unusual
then
grain
reworked
structures.
into heads.
When compared
This
to
would
control
explain
samples
certain
from the known quarry
inconsistencies in
region,
geometry
the
and
match
tool
was
finish.
incomplete.
But it does
Most
not
of the
explain
basalt
why
in
the
Olmec
inner
heads
marks or
comes from the
hidden
Tuxless
spirals
range.
exist.
This
If they were
sample had
left over
higher
from
levels of
previous forms,
feldspar
they
and
should
slightly
show
different
signs of
magnetic
partial
properties.
erasure.
This
Instead,
suggests
they
that
appear
either the source
intentional,
was a different
preserved.
part of the range
The
not
basalt
previously
used in
mapped,
this
or
sculpture
the
had
stone
unusual
came from
grain
farther
structures.
away.
When
What
compared
ties
to
all of
control
these
samples
anomalies
from the
together
known
is their
quarry region,
invisibility
the
to
match
naked
was
eye.
incomplete.
No
Most of the
archaeologist
basalt in
studying
Olmec
these heads
heads
by sight
comes from
could
the
have spotted
Tuxless
them.
range.
Only when
This sample
AI-based
had higher
scanning
levels of
systems
feldspar and
reconstructed their
slightly different
form with
magnetic
sub-millimeter
properties.
detail
This
did these
suggests
features
that
appear.
either the source
The
was a
scans
different
reveal
part
a
of the
structure
range,
and
not
complexity in the
previously
heads
mapped,
that was not
or the
previously
stone came from
documented.
farther away.
The implication
What
is
ties
that
all
either
of
the
these
Olmecs
anomalies
had more
together is
advanced
their
techniques than we
invisibility to
have
the
given them
naked
credit
eye.
for,
No
or the heads have a more
archaeologist studying
complicated
these heads
history
by
than
sight could
previously
have spotted
assumed.
them.
Perhaps
Only when
both.
AI-based
What the AI
scanning
scan has
systems
shown is not a
reconstructed their form with
supernatural
sub-millimeter
artifact.
detail
It
did
shows a
these features
sculpture
appear.
possibly
The
designed
scans
for something
reveal a
other than
structure and
public display.
complexity in the heads
And the
that
more we
was not
scan, the
previously
more these
documented.
buried
The
designs
implication
continue to
is that
appear,
either the
more
Olmecs
than
had more
monuments.
advanced techniques
The
than we
original
have given
purpose
them
of the
credit
MC
for,
heads has
or the
always been
heads have a more
uncertain.
complicated
Most
history
experts
than
believe they
previously
were carved to
assumed.
represent
Perhaps
rulers
both.
or
What the
elites,
AI scan
possibly
has
to mark
shown is not a
territory or
supernatural
commemorate
artifact.
political power.
It shows a
This is
sculpture
based on the head's
possibly
unique
designed for
facial
something
features,
other than
elaborate
public
headdresses,
display.
and
the
their
more we
placement
scan,
in central
the more these
areas of
buried
known
designs
sites.
continue
But
to
the new
appear.
AI scans,
More
along
than
with the
monuments.
anomalies they reveal,
The
suggest a
original
more
purpose of the
complicated
Olmec
role.
heads has always been
These heads
uncertain.
may have served a
Most
second
experts
function,
believe they were
one that
carved
goes
to represent
beyond
rulers
public
or
symbolism.
elites,
At
possibly to
Leventa,
mark
4
territory or
heads were
commemorate
discovered,
political
buried
power.
in a large
This is based on the
ceremonial
head's
platform.
unique facial
That kind of
features,
treatment does not
elaborate
fit with the
headdresses,
idea of
and their
public
placement
display.
in central
Instead,
areas of
it
known
suggests
Olmec
a kind
sites.
of burial,
But the
a
new
sealing,
AI
or
scans,
hiding of
along
something
with the
once
anomalies
active
they
or
revealed,
sacred. The
suggest
choice
a
to
more
bury them
complicated
may have
role.
been
These
intentional,
heads
not
may have served
accidental.
a second function,
They were not
one
discarded,
that goes
they were
beyond
put
public
away.
symbolism.
Some of the
At
heads show
Leventa,
signs
4
of
heads were
defacement.
discovered,
Facial features
buried
were
in a
flattened
large
or features
ceremonial
chipped away.
platform.
These
That
changes
kind of
were
treatment
deliberate.
does not fit with
One
the
theory
idea
is
of
that
public
these heads were
display.
damaged during
Instead, it
political
suggests a
change.
kind of
When a
burial,
ruler fell out of
a
power,
sealing
his
or
image
hiding
was
of something
defaced.
once active
But
or
another
sacred.
possibility
The
is that
choice
the
to
heads
bury
were
them
part
may
of a
have been
cycle,
intentional, not
created,
accidental.
displayed,
They were not
buried,
discarded.
and perhaps
They
even
were put away.
reused.
Some
If
of the
this is
heads
true,
show
then they
signs
were
of
not just
defacement.
statues.
Facial
They were
features
ritual
flattened,
tools
or
involved in
features
events
chipped
that were
away.
repeated over
These changes
generations.
were deliberate.
AI
One
analysis
theory is
also
that these
revealed
heads were
symmetry
damaged
patterns
during
that
political
suggest
change.
mathematical
When a
planning.
ruler fell out of
One
power,
head showed
his image
perfect
was
alignment
defaced.
between the
But
eyes,
another
nose, and mouth,
possibility is that the
down to
heads were part of a
sub-millimeter
cycle,
scale.
created,
This level of precision
displayed,
is rare in
buried,
freehand
and perhaps
carving.
even
It
reused.
implies some kind
If
of
this
layout
is true,
system.
then they were not
A few
just
researchers
statues.
believe this
They
could
were
point to
ritual
modular
tools
carving methods
involved
or
in events
templates
that were
used to guide
repeated over
sculptors.
generations.
That means the heads were
AI
not just
analysis
art.
also
They were
revealed
measured,
symmetry
calculated,
patterns
and
that suggest
executed with
mathematical
architectural
planning.
care.
One
That
head had
pattern is
perfect
also
alignment
reflected
between
in the
the
head's
eyes, nose, and
orientation.
mouth,
At
down
least
to
5 of them
sub-millimeter
face in
scale.
cardinal
This
directions,
level of precision
north,
is
south,
rare in
east,
freehand
or
carving.
west.
It
This is
implies some
common
kind
in
of layout
Mesoamerican
system.
sacred
A few
planning.
researchers
Temples,
believe this
ball
could point
courts,
to
and plazas
modular
were
carving
often
methods or
aligned with
templates
solar
used
or
to guide
astronomical
sculptors.
markers.
That means
If
the
the
heads
heads
were
were
not
part of a
just
larger
art.
spatial
They were
design,
measured,
then they may
calculated,
have
and
served a
executed with
cosmological
architectural
role,
care.
not just to show
That
who
pattern
ruled,
is also
but to
reflected
connect
in the
the
head's
earthly and
and celestial order.
At least 5
One of the most
face in
unusual
cardinal
findings from
directions,
the scans
north,
was the
south,
detection of recessed
east,
symbols
or
on the
west.
back of a
This
head
is
at
common in
Tresopolis.
Mesoamerican
The symbol
sacred
was
planning.
only a few
Temples,
centimeters
ball
wide,
courts, and
barely
plazas were
visible
often
even under
aligned
raking
with
light.
solar or
It looked like a
astronomical
cross
markers.
inside a
If
circle,
the heads were
not
part of a
found in
larger
other
spatial
Memic
design,
iconography.
then they
No
may
one
have
knows
served
its
a
meaning.
cosmological
Some
role,
suggest it could be a
not just to
directional
show
marker.
who ruled,
Others think
but
it may
to
have been
connect
part of
the
a system
earthly and
used to
celestial
align the
order.
head with
One
other
of the most
objects in
unusual
space.
findings
Either
from the
way, it does
scans
not seem
was the
decorative.
detection
It
of
was placed in a
recessed
hidden
symbols on the
location,
back of a
not
head
meant
at
to be seen
Tresopolis.
casually.
The
There is also growing interest in the idea that the heads were part of a memory system. In some early societies, monuments were used to store information. Position, scale, shape, and order could carry encoded meaning. If the heads were laid out across ceremonial grounds according to a specific geometry, they could have served as a kind of living knowledge system, not static memorials. The theory gains weight when comparing the heads to other Olmec structures. Several platforms and mounds at San Lorenzo and La Venta follow proportional patterns. Some are aligned with river paths, others mirror solar angles at key points in the year. The heads fit into these alignments, even when buried. That suggests the planning behind their placement was not random. Another point that supports multiple functions is the evidence of head recycling. At least 3 heads show signs of being recarved from older monuments. Tool marks that cross at odd angles, surface polishing that overlaps earlier edges, and unfinished facial contours all point to reuse. One head has what appears to be a throne seat carved into the back, now barely visible due to surface erosion. This feature would not exist if the block had been shaped only once. If the heads were recycled, that means they were not sacred in a permanent way. They could be transformed, reshaped, and repurposed. That flexibility suggests they served a role that changed with time, tied to social cycles, power shifts, or ceremonial needs. This again pushes against the idea of them as static monuments. They were active objects, possibly used across multiple generations. None of these interpretations can be confirmed with full certainty, but the scans revealed features that the public and even experts had missed for decades. If the Olmec heads were only meant to be portraits, their construction, placement, and reworking do not follow expected patterns. Their size, materials, and orientations match other sacred structures more than decorative art. Their surfaces contain details too fine for casual display. Their locations match ritual geometry, not random spacing. Whether ceremonial, astronomical, mnemonic, or architectural, the heads do not stand alone. They are connected to the land, to the stars, and to each other. They may not have been built to be seen. They may have been built to hold, and the data can't be unseen. The purpose of technology is not just to observe, it is to reveal. In the case of the Olmec heads, artificial intelligence did not find an answer. It found something else. It uncovered a pattern of mismatched details, inconsistencies, and hidden structures that suggest a deeper truth, one that has remained buried not only in the soil, but in the assumptions behind centuries of study. From the beginning, these sculptures defied expectations. Their weight, their scale, and the skill used to create them placed them far beyond what most would assume of a culture with no metal tools, no wheels, and no written records. But the archaeology accepted the mystery as a sign of creative ingenuity. The heads were seen as bold examples of early art, powerful, yes, but simple in meaning. The new scans have changed that. What the data shows is not a single anomaly. It is a series of them. In nearly every head scan, some detail did not match the expected profile. It might be a thin groove buried in the stone. It might be a void inside the structure. It might be a line of mineral concentration that did not belong. Each anomaly on its own is not enough to rewrite history, but taken together, they form a message. That message is simple. The current model is incomplete. The most surprising discovery was not on the surface. It was within. A model trained to simulate internal density based on laser reflection and surface geometry revealed inconsistencies in 2 of the heads. One had a hollow segment close to the center, long and narrow, like a hidden shaft. The other had layers of material that did not match known basalt patterns. In both cases, traditional explanations failed. These were not random air pockets. They were too symmetrical, too isolated. Some researchers suggest that these features are natural. Basalt can crack during cooling. It can form pockets, bubbles, or stress lines. But none of those forms match the layout of the voids detected here. One scan showed a clean break, a flat internal surface aligned with the external base. This is not how natural voids form. It looks cut, controlled, measured. When the results were published in a peer-reviewed archaeology journal, the academic response was cautious. The authors did not claim anything supernatural. They did not suggest lost civilizations or advanced machines. They reported the data. They described the process, and they admitted the limits of their interpretations. What followed was a wave of curiosity. More teams began requesting access to the AI models. Funding applications were submitted for further scans, and slowly more anomalies began to emerge.
One team discovered what appears to be an etched line under the jawline of a San Lorenzo head. Another found a polished depression hidden beneath the chin of a Levanta sculpture. None of these details were visible to the naked eye. None of them had been noted before. Even more troubling were the tool mark analyses. In at least one head, the AI flagged patterns that matched no known carving technique. The surface bore signs of grinding, not pecking, not chiseling. Grinding requires abrasive tools and fine pressure control. The MEMEC did use abrasives on jade, but to do the same on basalt at such scale would require a supply of tools and materials that not found at any site. The AI also detected symmetry too precise to be explained by hand carving alone. One head's facial axis deviated less than 2 millimeters across the full width from ear to ear. For context, this is closer to architectural tolerance than typical sculpture. It is unlikely the human eye alone could maintain this consistency. The spiral detected in one head's recessed back remains unexplained. Its curves followed a mathematical arc, not random, not decorative, a deliberate pattern hidden on a surface not meant to be seen. Together, these details suggest that the heads were more than visual. They may have encoded something, not writing in the modern sense, but form-based data, the way lines and shapes carry meaning in architecture, in ritual layout, in spatial memory systems. In many early cultures, knowledge was not written, it was built in the shape of roads, in the placement of monuments,